Y'all, with Charlie Kirk's death, it feels like Civil War is basically all but inevitable at this point. Like when we look at the two spectrums of what's possible, right? There's like, we're going to have a civil war or some sort of internal conflict, or we're not. And with everything that happened like post-COVID, the almost Trump assassination, Charlie Kirk dying, there's a million other things it feels like to list, right? But when we look at the spectrum of things, what does Charlie Kirk's death do, right? No war, yes war, we're over here, COVID pushes us, the whole Trump hysteria, and him with the election, and now Charlie Kirk dying, someone who's like not even a crazy like person, he's just like a normal moderate, like kind of conservative. Like none of his opinions were like outrageous, right? None of them were like out there. But with his death, it feels like we're going more and more and more this way, right? Frankly, I just don't see how we're going to stop the train that's going that way, right? Like think about all the things in place that we have right now that would have to go backwards for us to derail this. What's so frustrating about this is we have plenty of YouTube like shadow ban channels, right? And conservatism is like not accepted mainstream. All the mainstream outlets are of course left and always spin things with their kind of bias. Like for example, when he got shot, one of the first things they said is, oh, we don't know if someone like shot this gun off in celebration. And it's like, what person is ever shooting a gun off in celebration at someone like that, right? That just shows the level of bias and stupidity that's going on there. But yet they have the main platform, right? Now, of course, a lot of people don't believe the platform, but there's still a lot of people who are hooked on that platform of the mainstream media, right? Like, for example, you and I know that that's all bullshit. But when you go to work every day, I remember at my old office, they would have CNN playing in the lunchroom, and it's like, oh my God, you guys are playing CNN as if that's like even remotely respectable. Like in our break room, like someone's gonna be watching that, you know? Anyway, with his death, we lose one person who had a really strong platform and was accepted somewhat mainstream by a lot of people. And he wasn't shadow banned new as hard. Most people knew who he was, I would say. Like between both the channels, he had like 4 million and 3.5 million followers. So this was definitely like one of the flagship people for conservatism, right? Turning Point USA. Now, when we go back to the question of like, how do we derail like going to civil war, right? Like all the things that have to happen, like the mainstream media would have to start covering things fairly, but not happening in this lifetime, right? YouTube would have to stop sticking their dick around with the algorithm and promoting whatever the hell they want. That's like the second big one, right? I mean, the only reason we had that with Twitter is that Elon bought Twitter, right? And then we saw the Twitter files and all the revelations that like any of the normies who weren't aware at that time would have finally woken up to, right? Like at this point, there's really no like waking up, right? Like it's pretty late in the game. So YouTube would have to stop promoting things. The mainstream media would have to stop promoting things and start covering things with like some semblance of like semi-equality. Like we know that that's not going to happen. It'd have to be acceptable to like a conservative again, because even though it has had a little bit of a shift in the last year or two where it's like kind of acceptable, sort of, kind of, it's still like seen as like coming out of the closet, right? Almost in that sense, right? Like, oh my God, we have a conservative, depending of course where you are. I'm not saying it's as bad as it was like 8 years ago, but it's definitely not going to do you favors, especially if you start talking about the stuff in the corporate world, right? And the last thing that really would have to come around is people would have to really look themselves in the mirror and start accepting facts for what they are, rather than getting triggered and, you know, going for cancel culture, for example, right? But like the irony of that, right, is that when you have facts, you're not going to be on the left. For example, when Charlie Kirk was talking to a lot of people, if you look at some of his clips, which have resurfaced again, there's quite a few times where the leftists start just like, you're an evil person, you're a douchebag, you're spreading like xenophobia or whatever, and I hate you. And it's just like, well, that's not an argument. There's no facts in that. It's just someone being completely irrational, right? So rationality would have to return to society at a level we had, say, maybe 40 years ago, right? 30 years ago. Now, between all those things, and there's plenty more, but like those are kind of just the easiest ones to spout off the top of my head. Of all those things, are those getting better after Charlie Kirk's death? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. We're going to continue to have the United States, and there's going to be two populations living in it. There's going to be those living in reality, and there's going to be those that are living on the other side of the planet, mentally at least. If you haven't seen my video from 6 months ago about the Civil War and the factors that led up to it, I highly recommend you check out the first half hour so you can see all the factors that led up. Because even though I talk a lot about the fighting and how it compares to modern day society, there's some specific events in there that I want to cover in here very briefly. So in 1856, after the Kansas-Nebraska Act, that was the law that led to Bleeding Kansas. Nebraska and Kansas were allowed to like choose whatever they wanted to be, whether it was slave or non-slave state. And so some of the nearby neighbor states, in order to gain favor, started playing dirty. This led the Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner to give a speech that was very anti-slavery, right? He called it a moral evil, of course, which it was. And this led one of the Southern representatives to beat him with a cane physically. And when I say beat, I mean that he like really beat the shit out of him. Like he was blinded by his own blood in his eye, you know? And he wasn't able to represent for 3 years. Like he was literally out of Congress, but Massachusetts made a pretty big point about it by leaving his seat empty, by still having him register as the person and just leaving the seat open. So technically he was elected, he was just unable to serve because someone beat the fuck out of him, right? Like a pimp. Anyway, while that was a total barbaric and brutal beating, a lot of the Northerners saw that as like, oh my God, these Southerners are fucking serious about this shit, you know? So what did that do to the whole attitude of the country? Well, it got colder and colder, right? the Northerners who are anti-slave start looking at it like, oh my God, these people were driven to do that. That feels exactly like this moment does with Charlie Kirk, right? You're allowed to be verbally very aggressive, right? And you can say things, but you're supposed to debate it out and have ideas with each other, right? To go to the extra step and then go to violence, that's what we're trying to avoid, right? So when someone goes ahead and does that, look at the right's reaction right now, right? And it's completely justified, by the way. We're looking at this as complete and total disgust because someone went out of their way to go murder someone because they couldn't beat him in an argument. By the way, this isn't new. A lot of these TikTokers who are getting fired from their jobs because they supported the death of Charlie Kirk, which is completely barbaric. It's not that different than those who are sending Preston Brooks of South Carolina, like canes, because they liked him beating him like that. So realistically, a lot of these TikTokers are not all that different from the people back then who supported Preston Brooks and beating the fuck out of Charles Sumner. Like, they were literally sending him canes, like extra canes as like thank yous for like beating him. So even in these heinous evil acts, people back then still had like support, you know what I mean? So this is like nothing new out of the human nature playbook. The thing is though, this is how divided our country is. Me and the right are having very, very visceral reactions to this because it's fucking unbelievable what he did, right? Like, Charlie Kirk was not an extreme person. So by killing someone who's extending the olive branch to actually have conversations with the other side and try to get it there before we get to violence is devastating. And we're in that kind of moment a few years before the Civil War where things are getting really fucking cold right now, and we can all feel it, right? Like, we all feel that feeling of like, oh my God, I cannot fucking believe he did that. Like, this man is dead because of what he stood for, right? And don't forget, because Charlie Kirk was not that extreme, like, that could have been you and me. Like, his brand of conservatism is nothing special. So for those of us who are in like the libertarian corner, me just having that opinion, yeah, I'm probably going to be like agreeing with a lot of what Charlie said and then more, right? Meaning, yeah, that bullet could have been meant for me and you as well, right? Anyway, if we're trying to draw parallels from the Civil War, it feels like it's about 1856 right now. Charles Sumner just got beat. People are thinking, man, you guys are fucking barbaric. The only difference between this and now, when the country got really, really, really excited, as they put it in the book that I was covering back then, was when John Brown did what he did. That was like an upfront takeover, and also he was murdering people in their sleep, right? So don't forget, there is a possibility that someone on the right will start going and murdering people on the left, and that would be really bad because a lot of people from our side will get thrown under the bus, like, oh my God, look at what he did, right? Of course, with Charlie Kirk's death, not every single person on the left wants to go like the extra mile and like kill someone like Charlie Kirk, but it's very easy for us to blame the whole movement, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't because of how much damage the left's ideology can do, but I'm just trying to show you that if someone starts doing that, they're going to start blaming all of us on that side, even though we know murdering lefties and murdering anyone really is just bad. Anyway, it won't take too much to send the country into pure and total like chaos. If we start to see even more barbaric things, like, remember, John Brown got put to death, right? Only after he tried to take over Harper's Ferry and he murdered all those people in their sleep. But if we see something like that, it doesn't matter which side, I guess, at this point, but the barbarism gets like elevated to that level, the next election could be it. Because don't forget, the Civil War started right as Abe Lincoln was about to get into office. A lot of the southern states couldn't believe that he had won and that they were going to have to submit to his presidency because, of course, civil service had not started at that point. So even the lowly postmaster was handpicked by the president. So, of course, they're going to pick whoever's like on their side, right? And so the states said, you know what? Fuck this. We're not having this, right? A lot of them. Not all of them in the South, but a lot of them had seceded, right? So again, that's just drawing the parallel to the Civil War back then. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it feels like we're really getting to a point where the culture is getting really, really fucking cold and ice cold toward each other at that. And let's be honest, I mean, the train is going this way straight into the Civil War. It feels like everything that we've tried to do to derail it is not working, and there's just no common reality we can get back to where we can at least keep it at bay, right? Oh well, I'd be seriously surprised if we make it to like 2032 without a Civil War, for example. I would say 5 years is a pretty good time frame, and maybe it won't be like an outright Civil War. Like I said in one of my other videos, we don't really know what it would look like because today it's like the city versus like the rural divide, right? So again, these things are really hard to predict with your crystal ball, but it feels like things are going in that direction full speed right now, right? I mean, at this point, what can we do to really derail it? We don't have any common ground with these people anymore, right? Oh, well, I just don't see us getting away from it this time, you know? After COVID, Donald Trump's almost getting assassinated. They're probably going to try for that again pretty soon. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? Charlie Kirk dying, one of our flagship people. I mean, what are we supposed to do now? Are they just going to start killing the few people we have that actually represent our ideals? I don't know. I just don't see how we get out of this without some sort of like at least medium level conflict, you know?